The Tulsa Police Department is constantly working investigations. Most of the time we work investigations, they are covert for specific reasons. We are here this morning because of a covert investigation which has been going on for the last couple of weeks here in the city of Tulsa. We are announcing the arrest of an individual that is going to be charged with multiple sexual assaults within our city. These assaults occurred beginning August 21st to the last one, which concluded on September 23rd. We became aware of the series of sexual assaults occurring in the area of 41st and 129th East Avenue. Once we became aware, we shifted resources and saturated that area. We began multiple hours of surveillance throughout the hours in which these assaults occurred. During the course of all of this, we came upon an individual, and I'm going to let Lieutenant Darren Ehrenrich explain more of the details of that. But I do want to point out that this effort was incredible. We had detectives from our Special Victims Unit involved, Fugitive Warrants Unit. We had patrol officers from the first shift Mingo Valley Division involved in the operations, as well as our K-9, and all of them played a very crucial role in the development of a suspect and ultimately to the arrest of the suspect this morning. I also want to point out the TPD Forensic Lab and the work that they did to make this case, bring this case to a conclusion. So without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Lieutenant Darren Ehrenrich with the Special Victims Unit.
Thank you, Chief. And again, my name is Lieutenant Darren Ehrenrich. That's D-A-R-I-N-E-H-R-E-N-R-I-C-H. And as Chief said, this investigation began August 21st when patrol officers responded during the overnight hours to a sexual assault. That victim reported that she was asleep in her apartment and woke up to an individual standing over her, held her down by her face, and began ripping her clothes off. During that assault, he raped her orally, vaginally, and anally. Prior to fleeing that location, he also stole several items from that victim. That was being worked as a standalone investigation up until we had our second report September 20th. On that instance, less than a stone's throw away from the first incident, we had a victim that was walking into her apartment, was grabbed from behind and dragged to the floor. At that point, the suspect held her down and tried to rip her clothing off, and she was luckily she was able to fight him off, scream, and that suspect fled. 3 days later, right near that location as well, we had another report of a suspect that walked into a victim's residence. Again, she was asleep in her house. She woke up to a suspect standing over her. He grabbed her by the throat, held her down, and attempted to tear her clothing off. Again, this victim fought back. She screamed, kicked, and that suspect stole some items and fled that residence. Like Chief said, when we got all these reports put together, there was a overwhelmingly large response from all kinds of different aspects of this department, from patrol officers, different units of detective division, and our laboratory personnel and K-9. There are countless individuals that worked numerous hours to get this guy identified. Through those investigative efforts, we identified Brandon Bills as a suspect in this series of assaults, and this morning served a search warrant at his residence, taking him into custody. He was transported to detective division this morning, and he did give a full confession detailing he gave details of each individual assault that only the suspect would know. So we're 100% confident we have the right guy. These are absolutely horrific crimes. it's kind of hard to imagine the terror waking up and having someone over you that does that. But again, he is in custody. We are very proud of have had the opportunity to bring this series of assaults to an end, and I will open it up to a few questions.
Do you think he may be involved in any other sexual assaults?
I think that is a very high likelihood. The first incident was August 21st, and we didn't have another incident until September 20th. That's a pretty large window there, and we believe that there may be additional victims in there that are just afraid to report. All of our victims in this series of assault were Hispanic females, and so there could be some fear of reporting based on that.
You said the first one was in an apartment complex. Were they all in an apartment?
Yes, they were all all these assaults were contained to the Polo Club apartments and the Alexis Park apartments they're literally right next to each other off of the northwest corner of 41st and 129th.
Why do you say that there may be some fear of reporting because they're Hispanic?
I think that among the Hispanic community there is still a fear of police. I think that they're going to be afraid that we're more concerned about their immigration status than any crimes that have happened to them, and that is absolutely not the case.
What do you want to say to anybody out there who may have information or who may have gone to this through this as well and is just afraid to come forward?
There are a lot of detectives and victim advocates that are here to support them. Again, we're not concerned about any fear you have of police, whether that be just based on national media trends or fear of immigration status. I don't care about that. And our main concern is getting people like Brandon Bills off the street.
How important was these survivors coming forward and you guys helping identify him and also eventually leading to his arrest?
Without the bravery of the survivors coming forward, we wouldn't have the case. We wouldn't have known this happened, and Brandon Bills would still be out there to continue to terrorize that area. So I cannot commend the bravery of each of these survivors enough to have the courage to come forward and tell us what they know so that we can do what we need to do to get people like Brandon Bills off the street.
How did you narrow it down to this guy? Was this somebody that the witnesses knew from previously? Or?
There was like Chief said, there was a lot of different investigative methods that went through here. There was a lot of tools that we have at our disposal that I really won't divulge at this point, but it was a combination of high-tech police work that's available to us and a combination of just old-school surveillance-type police work.
I know a lot of times it's DNA. I know you don't want to say a lot about it, but was DNA involved?
DNA was recovered from the scene, and tentatively, our lab has said that it cannot be ruled out as being provided by Brandon Bills.
Did the suspect live in the area of those apartments?
He did. He lived at the Union Point Apartments, which is at the southwest corner of 41st and 129th, and he could be from his apartment to any of the victim's apartment within about a 2-minute walk.
Did he have any sort of criminal history that could have indicated that he would do something like this?
He is a 19-year-old man, and he has no criminal history with us whatsoever.
Did you find things in the search warrant that will help build your case? Anything that you can share?
Yes, but nothing I can share.
Were all the victims Hispanic or were there other?
The 3 known victims that we have right now are all Hispanic women.
Is there anything pointing to him targeting them specifically, Hispanic women specifically?
Other than his actions, I don't know. It looks like in each one of these instances, it was a Hispanic victim female. So I don't know if he was targeting them specifically. I can only speculate on that. But we have had instances in the past where suspects will target Hispanic victims based on their understanding that they may be afraid to come forward.
Were all the victims around the same age?
They vary in age,
Would you give us a range?
20 to 40.
Do you have an indication of opportunity taken at the moment? Did he watch him for a while? Did he identify him, by literally looking for where he lives?
I don't know. Yeah, I can't speculate on why he chose these victims or how he chose them. We don't know that as of right now.
On the ones where he was found standing over the bed or whatever, did he have to force his way in, or did they leave window unlocked and door unlocked?
Right now, I won't comment on how he got in.
Okay.
So you mentioned you've spoken with him and you described these scenes. Did he express any kind of remorse or anything for
Right now, again, I won't make I won't give any details about his statement, other than to say that he did give a full confession and gave details of each specific crime that only the suspect would know.
Anything else?
Oh, I might. Should we be worried about this happening again with different suspects? I feel like we just had another suspect arrested who did similar things.
The last suspect we had that did this was Jesse Moore back in December of 2020. I mean, is that threat always out there? Of course that threat's always out there. The city of Tulsa is a large city, and we investigate. The Special Victims Unit receives about 1,000 cases a year. This is obviously an especially heinous case. These cases are extremely rare, but are there going to be more people like Brandon Bills out there? Yes, there will be. But will we be there to respond as we have? Absolutely.
Obviously, many of these women were not expecting this situation to unfold, but for anyone who does find themselves in a situation like that, what is your recommendation, or what should they do? How should they handle that situation?
That's a hard question to answer. I don't think that anyone really knows what they're going to do until they're in that situation. The advice from most officers is that if you're going to be the victim of the crime, to comply so you're not hurt in case he has weapons. But two of the victims fought him off and he fled. I don't think there's any good way to answer that question. Sometimes it is probably better to try and fight back and fight them off. Sometimes there's suspects that if you try and fight them, they will hurt you. They will stab you, they will shoot you to get what they want. So it's hard to answer that question without being in the specific situation, and I think that everyone's going to have to make that determination. I pray to God that no one ever is in that situation, but I don't think that there's any one thing I can tell victims to do.
I know you guys do the things you do for a certain reason. A lot of people would wonder after that September 20th incident why you didn't alert the public. Can you explain to people kind of why you guys made that decision?
We want to give ourselves the best opportunity to catch him. And if we immediately go to the public, that can tip off a suspect. They can delete evidence, they can get rid of evidence, they can go into hiding, they can do any number of things. They can stop, they can just go into the wind. I think that if we have good, solid leads and we're on a good track, and we have all the confidence in the world that we'll be able to find him in a very quick and reasonable amount of time, like we did feel in this case, then I feel that not coming forward immediately gives us the best opportunity to arrest this person and give us the best case to put forward possible.
Now, I know that you mentioned that you can't necessarily speak as to how someone would respond in that situation, but given the information that you do have, what tips would you advise people as far as women when it comes to safety and awareness of their surroundings and that kind of nature?
Well, these women were asleep in their home. I mean, you can't be in a more safer place than in your apartment, in your bed, in your bedroom. I mean, when you're asleep, you can't tell them to be more aware of their bedroom. But we've had several other cases where we have peeping Toms in public. We have sexual assaults in public. It is of critical importance that people be aware of their surroundings and notice if someone's approaching them or around them that they're not comfortable with.
Now, you mentioned that he lived in the same apartment complex as they did.
No, he lived across the street.
Oh, across the street.
Yeah, he lived about a 2-minute walk.
Okay, and they were in their home though, whenever.
They were in their home.
So is awareness of your surroundings, who's watching you, important?
Absolutely. Yeah, of course it is. When you arrive home, And again, he did attack one victim from behind as she was entering her apartment. From our conversations with her, it sounds like he was hiding and just blitzed her and tackled her when she had no opportunity to even react. So, but absolutely, it is important that, especially in apartment complexes, we have numerous robberies and sexual assaults and other crimes of opportunity that do occur in apartment complexes because there are so many people around. There are so many targets of opportunity. So I would say, especially in apartment complexes, it is of more critical importance that you are aware of your surroundings and are taking note of anyone that could be around and approaching you.
Did surveillance video from any of those apartment complexes or the one specific apartment complex help you guys lead to him?
Yes, Alexis Park did have surveillance cameras in their apartments, and it did help us identify him as a suspect in this case.
Any more questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.